On my wedding day, I was drugged by my half-sister who was also getting married. She swapped my wedding dress, took my place in the bridal sedan, and married into the Marquis mansion. After I regained consciousness, I refused to let it go. My half-sister was utterly humiliated and eventually sent to the family temple. I got my wish and married into the Marquis mansion, but a year later, I was on the brink of death from a difficult childbirth. My husband Fu Yunmo, who had always doted on me, dismissed all the midwives and physicians, then entered with my stepsister and the child in her arms. If it weren't for fear of the general's mansion's power, you would deserve to die 10,000 times for humiliating Shu Shu. Now the general's mansion has been accused of treason and rebellion, and the entire household has been executed. Only you remain. My stepsister stepped on my stomach and chuckled. Sister, when you humiliated me that day, remember to atone properly down below. The title of Marchioness and the heir position Ruia and I will gladly accept them. In excruciating pain, I drew my last breath with eyes wide open, unable to rest in peace. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of my wedding. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. The joyful music outside was incessantly loud. I got up from the bed, waited for half an hour, and then, holding my head, opened the door to go out. My mother, supported by a servant, was just walking back. The tear of reluctance at the corner of her eye was not yet wiped away when she looked up and met my gaze at the doorway. Stunned, she froze in place. Father frowned, the first to react. Qingyu, why are you here, pointing outside? He exclaimed in shock. Then who was the one who just got into the Marquis's bridal sedan? I clutched my chest, my face full of shock. What? Someone has already taken my place in the bridal sedan. Last night, my sister said she couldn't bear to part with me and gave me a calming sachet. I took a couple of whiffs and slept until now. The lively atmosphere instantly fell silent. Everyone exchanged glances, their expressions varied. Mother was so angry she nearly choked on her breath and immediately ordered her personal maid to drag out Aunt Hu, who was trying to flee from the crowd. Well, I see now, earlier, during the send-off, you clung to the bride's hand, crying even more bitterly than I, her own mother. I thought you were a decent person, but it turns out you really are the one who gave birth to that little wretch. Aunt Hu knelt on the ground, her eyes darting nervously, stammering, I don't understand what you're saying, madam. It was the eldest young lady who overslept and missed the auspicious hour. How can you blame my Shu Shu for it? As soon as she finished speaking, the steward hurried in. Master, madam. The Shu family's wedding procession has arrived and is waiting at the gate. Mother's face turned cold. Where is Song Shu Shu? Find her immediately. I lowered my gaze and sneered coldly. Where else could it be? Of course, it's in Fu Yunmo's bridal chamber. At this hour, they've probably already entered the bridal chamber. As my gaze swept over the trace of triumph that Aunt Hu couldn't hide at the corner of her mouth, I became even more certain. These two, mother and daughter, are truly cunning schemers. Song Shu Shu drugged me and stole my identity. By the time I woke up, the situation was already beyond reversal. I was left with only two choices: either swallow the bitter pill and share a husband with her as co-wives, or take her place and marry into the Shu merchant family. Although the Shu family were merchants and held a low social status, much of the provisions for my elder brother's border defense efforts in recent years had come from them. Father values gratitude the most, which is why he agreed to the marriage between Song Shu Shu and the Shu family. She pulled a switch, forcing the marriage she despised the most onto me. If I were to agree, by tomorrow, the news of the legitimate daughter of the Zhonghua general marrying into the merchant Shu family would spread throughout the entire capital, and I would become the laughingstock of all the noble families. In my previous life, she used this trick to try and keep me under her heel forever. But with my parents backing me, I caused a huge scene at the wedding hall. The Fu family, wary of my father and brother's influence at court, forcibly had Song Shu Shu, who was halfway through the ceremony, thrown out. I got my wish and became the Marquis's wife, and Fu Yunmo treated me like a precious jewel. At that time, I had no idea that the man I had given my heart and soul to had long been secretly involved with Song Shu Shu, and she was already pregnant with his child. They were just waiting for the right moment to completely destroy the general's mansion. The nanny's exclamation interrupted my thoughts. Madam, the second young lady is not in her room. Her wedding dress and veil are still there, but all the jewelry and money are gone, and I found these letters in the second young lady's room. Father opened it and saw that it was all love poems exchanged between Song Shu Shu and Fu Yunmo. She was so angry that her face turned ashen. She flung it fiercely into concubine whose face. Look at the fine daughter you've raised, carrying on a secret affair with an outsider before even being married, bringing shame upon our general's manor. The letter bore the unique seal of Fu Yunmo. He and Song Shushu had been discreet and naturally left no evidence. This was something I deliberately added. My intention was to let everyone in the capital know that Song Shushu not only had an affair before marriage but also with her own brother-in-law. The Dowager Marchioness values face above all. Even if she marries into the Marquis's household, she will never find peace. Sure enough, someone immediately sneered, a mere concubine-born daughter. How audacious to drug her legitimate sister, swap the marriage, and attempt to wed into the Marquis's household. Truly shameless. Indeed, it's exactly the kind of lowly deed such a wretched creature would do. General Song must be lamenting his family's misfortune. Aunt Hu, having calculated the timing and knowing the deed was done, straightened her back with newfound confidence. General, Shushu is also your own daughter. Since the matter is already settled, just let her have her way. The mother was so furious that she slapped her across the face. What a clever scheme you've devised. Using such despicable means to steal my daughter's marriage and still expecting to be granted your wish. How dare you even think you're worthy? Guards, drag Aunt Hu away. Give her 30 heavy strikes, and then throw her into the ancestral hall to kneel in punishment. Aunt Hu widened her eyes in disbelief, shrieking incessantly, how dare any of you touch me? I am now the mother-in-law of the Marquis of Guangping. If even a single hair on my head is harmed, I'll have my son-in-law exterminate your entire clan. Her father kicked her to the ground. Don't forget, Qingyu is my legitimate daughter. This marriage was always meant for her. How dare you and your mother scheme against her like this? You'll pay for this. Take her away. Aunt Hu's wails were cut short as the guards dragged her off. The steward frowned with worry. General, the Shu family is pressing for an answer. What should we do? With a stern face, her father replied without hesitation, gather the men and follow me to the Marquis's residence. We'll drag that disgrace of a daughter back and send her to the Shu family. This marriage is not for a mere concubine-born daughter to decide. I tugged at my father's sleeve, tears falling pitifully. Father, let it be. My sister and the Marquis are deeply in love and had an affair even before the marriage. They disregarded the imperial decree and set up such a grand scheme to humiliate our general's manor. I don't want to marry such a man, so let her have him. I wiped the corner of my eye. The Shu family has shown kindness to our general's manor. I don't want to put you in a difficult position or let you bear the reputation of being ungrateful. I am willing to marry into the Shu family. My father looked at me, both startled and moved. Qingyu. But you are the legitimate daughter of the general's manor. Marrying into the Shu family would truly be a disservice to you. Father, I interrupted with a smile, the Shu family is righteous and noble. When the nation faced crisis, they stepped forward to donate provisions to the border troops. Such integrity is rare in this world. Besides, Xu Lang is now the top scholar of the imperial examinations, a disciple of the emperor. In time, he will surely bring honor to his ancestors. Marrying into the Xu family is no hardship for me. One is a concubine-born daughter who stole her legitimate sister's marriage for wealth and status. The other is a noble-hearted legitimate daughter who married down to honor the family's debt to the general's manor. The difference between them was as vast as clouds and mud, their characters instantly clear. Many in the audience had reddened eyes, pitying me while feeling utter disdain for Song Shushu's actions. My mother's heart was shattered with pain as she held me tightly in her arms. Father gritted his teeth in anger. How dare the Marquis of Guangping humiliate the legitimate daughter of our Zhenghua general's manor like this? Qingyu, rest assured, even if this matter is brought before His Majesty, it will be the Fu family's fault. You were right not to marry such a man, but I will definitely help you get justice for this insult. By the time we arrived at the Marquis's residence, the ceremony had already concluded, and the banquet was in full swing. Everyone was stunned when they saw us storming in with such force. Isn't that Song Qingyu, the legitimate daughter of the general's manor? Wasn't she supposed to be the bride today? Why is she here? That's not right. The bride who just finished the wedding ceremony and was sent to the bridal chamber isn't the legitimate daughter of the Song family. Then who was that just now? The mother sneered. I apologize for the spectacle, everyone. She is indeed a daughter of the Song family, just a lowly concubine-born daughter who stole her legitimate sister's marriage. The scene immediately erupted in an uproar, with everyone present in shock. Fu Yunmo rushed in from outside, his face ashen as he interrupted. Qingyu, stop making a scene. This isn't Shushu's fault. I had too much to drink earlier and mistook her for you, and we've already consummated the marriage. I know you are angry in your heart, but Shushu is innocent. Since she has already given herself to me, I naturally must take responsibility. Today, the one who will be carried in the grand sedan chair and wed with formal rites is her. She will be the principal wife. Tomorrow, I will have someone bring a small sedan to welcome you through the side door. Shushu is gentle and kind, and she will surely be able to teach you to tame your willful and fiery temper when one is rendered utterly speechless. They truly feel like laughing. Enter through the side door. That is the treatment of a concubine, this long marginalized and fallen Marquis household, if it weren't for the engagement with me and my father's support at court, would never have had the chance to be noticed by the emperor again. How dare he have the audacity to suggest that I, the legitimate daughter of the Zhengguo general's household, should become his concubine? What an absurd notion, my father, enraged to the point of laughter, retorted. Marquis Guangping has quite the nerve. After enjoying a few good days, he's forgotten the taste of a fallen household. Would you like me to help you recall it? The Marquis's elderly mother, finally snapping to her senses, hurried forward and asked, "Dear-in-law, what on earth is going on here?" The mother took the stack of love poems from the nanny and threw them on the table. "What does the Dowager Marchioness think, your fine son? Disregarding the imperial decree and humiliating my daughter, do you think the general's manor will still be able to see tomorrow's sun if we report this to the emperor?" The Dowager Marchioness clutched her chest, her face instantly turning pale, and repeatedly questioned her son. "Yunmo, tell me, what have you done?" Before Fu Yunmo could speak, Song Shushu, clad in thin clothing, rushed out. She fell to her knees with a thud before me, weeping pitifully. "Sister, it's all my fault. I was momentarily overwhelmed by emotions and did something foolish. Now that the Marquis and I have already become intimate, if you continue to make a scene, it will only bring shame to the general's manor. Even if you don't care about me, do you not care about the reputation of the general's manor? To excuse your own despicable behavior as an uncontrollable passion, and to label my demand for justice as a disregard for the general's mansion's reputation, what an audacious claim," I sneered. "Are you saying that if I question you drugging me, stealing my marriage, and taking my place in the bridal chamber, I'm the one harming the general's mansion's reputation?" I deliberately tore off her veil of shame in a loud voice. "If you like the Marquis, why didn't you tell me earlier? I wasn't set on the Marquis of Guangping. Why wait until the imperial decree was issued, and on my wedding night, do such a filthy thing? Who exactly is trampling the face of the general's manor into the dirt? Could it be that in your eyes, the general's manor means nothing, and you're only focused on snatching away what I have?" Song Shushu paled in panic, her eyes darting away. I didn't. I truly admire the Marquis. But every guest at the banquet was sharp-witted. How could they not see through it, using sincerity as an excuse for such despicable and lowly behavior? Engaging in the tricks of a brothel, you should first see if your status is even worthy of such wealth and honor. If this were my daughter, I'd have her hang herself with a white silk rope to spare the family's honor. Others directly targeted Fu Yunmo. The Marquis of Guangping is so shameless, marrying a flirtatious and showy concubine-born daughter, yet still clinging to his noble legitimate daughter, wanting both. He truly has no shame. The Dowager Marchioness, utterly humiliated and flushed with anger, slapped Fu Yunmo hard across the face. "You unfilial son, kneel down at once and apologize to your parents-in-law, and promise to marry Qingyu immediately." Fu Yunmo covered his face, shooting a venomous glare at me as if blaming me for ruining his plans. He blamed all the faults on me, completely forgetting that I was the biggest victim today. "Mother, the one I have always loved is Shushu. In this lifetime, I will marry no one but her. Song Qingyu is domineering and jealous, utterly unworthy of being the matriarch of our Marquis household. This position belongs only to Shushu. If she knows her place, being a concubine would already be too generous for her. If she doesn't, she can wait to be scorned and despised by everyone in the capital. Let's see who would dare take her after being rejected by the Marquis household. She'll have no choice but to shave her head and become a nun for the rest of her life." I watched coldly as this man, to whom I had given my heart and soul for years, after the old Marquis passed away, the mediocre and untalented Fu Yunmo inherited the title of Marquis. In just 3 months, he not only botched the tasks assigned by the emperor but also offended many officials due to his overambitious nature. The emperor completely abandoned the Guangping Marquis estate. The Marquis estate quickly fell into decline, ostracized by the court and reduced to utter poverty. Even the patrolling soldiers could step on him. It was I who, remembering our childhood friendship, helped him and encouraged him. I even persuaded my father to support him. He knelt before my father, crying and swearing that if he ever betrayed me in this lifetime, may he be struck by lightning and die a miserable death. In just 2 years, he climbed into the center of power, yet he had long forgotten his original vows. Now he even has the audacity to say that making me a concubine is an honor. Many people at the scene stared at Fu Yunmo as if he were a madman. They couldn't understand where a minor Marquis of Guangping found the nerve to repeatedly provoke the Zhengguo general's mansion, which even the emperor treats with respect. If it weren't for the general's mansion's reputation, they wouldn't have bothered to attend this wedding banquet at all. Fu Yunmo, however, thought nothing of it. Seeing my silence, he was convinced I was heartbroken and couldn't bear to let him go. He held Song Shushu even more proudly and arrogantly. Song Qingyu, if you kneel down now and offer Shushu the tea of respect as the main wife, I might just acknowledge you as this lowly concubine. As long as you serve Shushu well from now on, I might just give you a child to rely on. I stared at his smug face and laughed. It's a good thing such a fool who can't read the situation was picked up by Song Shushu. She's actually done me a favor. My father, standing nearby, couldn't hold back any longer. Furious to the extreme, he instead let out a cold laugh. With such arrogance, Lord Guangping, it seems my general's manner is unworthy of you. My Qingyu will not take the position of your marchioness. As for you, he pointed at Song Shushu, my general's mansion has no daughter who would secretly swap her elder sister's marriage, engage in illicit relations without proper matchmaking, and disregard the family's honor. Today, upon returning, I will open the ancestral hall and remove your name. From now on, you will have no connection to the general's mansion. Song Shushu's eyes reddened, crying bitterly, Father, I am also your daughter. Why are you being so cruel to me? I was only striving to be with the one I love. What did I do wrong? The Marquis rejected Song Qingyu because she was incompetent. Why should all the good things be given to Song Qingyu? Her father sneered coldly. Fine, I grant you your efforts. From now on, you are no longer a member of the general's mansion. Take care of yourself. Guards, take all the eldest young lady's dowry back. Song Shushu screamed on the spot. No, these are my dowry. Her mother slapped her across the face. You snatched Qingyue's marriage, and now you want to take her dowry too. What a dream. All of this was prepared by the general's mansion for their legitimate daughter. Who do you think you are? If you want a dowry, go ask your concubine mother for it. The guards of the general's mansion were about to carry the dowry away when Fu Yunmo stepped in front of them. Wait, if you dare to take the dowry away today, you'll be defying the imperial decree. He looked at me. Qingyu. The marriage between the Marquis residence and the general's residence was decreed by the emperor. Shushu was brought into my household with a grand wedding procession, so she is the principal wife, but I never said I wouldn't marry you. If you leave today, it will be the general's residence that defies the imperial decree. Mother gritted her teeth in anger. The emperor's decree was for the legitimate daughter of the general's residence to be the wife. It is your Marquis residence that has gone too far, and now you dare to shift the blame. Fu Yunmo said with a smug expression, then I'll just make Qingyu a co-wife. Since ancient times, there has only ever been one principal wife. A secondary wife may sound like a wife, but in reality, she is just a higher-ranking concubine. The words were faultless, yet everyone could see it was a slap in the face to the general's household. Father was so enraged that he clutched his chest, gasping violently, nearly passing out. Mother's eyes were red with fury. She wanted to demand justice for me but was left speechless under the pressure. Song Shushu, swaying her waist, nestled in Fu Yunmo's embrace, her face beaming with a spring breeze smile. Sister. It's fine if I can't be the young lady of the general's manor. From now on, when I enter the Marquis residence, you'll have to call me sister. Consider these dowries of yours as an offering to me, the rightful wife. Have them all carried into my treasury. Song Shushu's maid shoved me aside forcefully, and it seemed all the dowries were about to be taken back. My mother, furious, tried to stop them but was shoved to the ground by the Marquis servants who relied on their master's influence to bully others. Song Shushu raised an eyebrow. Madam General, this is the Marquis's household dealing with private matters. If you insist on meddling and end up getting hurt, you can only blame yourself for being foolish. I helped my mother to her feet and glared coldly at that despicable couple. Fu Yunmo curled his lips into a condescending smirk. A married daughter is like spilled water, impossible to take back. From now on, the Marquis is your master. Come and kneel before me. And Shushu, seeing that I didn't move, two servants pinned my shoulders down, kicked the back of my knees, and forced my head to the ground in a bow. I gritted my teeth, holding onto the ground with all my might. Just as my head was about to hit the floor, a loud shout suddenly came from outside the door. Imperial decree has arrived. The Marquis's residence is to receive the edict. My heart eased, and I let out a sigh of relief. The timing was just perfect. Turning around, I couldn't help but freeze in surprise. Accompanying the eunuch who was reading the imperial decree was actually Shu Lang. He was followed by a line of imperial guards. The eunuch glanced at him and, with a smile, handed the decree over to him. Lord Shu, since this imperial decree is what you requested, you may read it aloud. Shu Lang politely accepted it, his cool gaze sweeping over the crowd. Whether it was my imagination or not, the The corner of his mouth seemed to twitch slightly when he looked at me. The Marquis's household receives the decree. Fu Yunmo's expression darkened, a vague sense of foreboding stirring in his heart as he was anxiously pulled down to kneel by the Marquis and the elderly lady. By the Emperor's decree, the Marquis of Guangping, disregarding the imperial marriage arrangement, conspired with Song Shushu to substitute the bride and deceive the court. The marriage alliance between the general's manor and the Marquis of Guangping's household is hereby dissolved. The Marquis of Guangping is stripped of his noble title and reduced to commoner status. Song Shushu, for her deception and lack of filial piety and righteousness, is bestowed in marriage to Fu Yunmo as a lowly concubine, never to be elevated in status. Song Qingyu, the legitimate daughter of the general's manor, is virtuous, gentle and loyal. She is now bestowed in marriage to Shu Lang, the chief minister of the Dali Temple, as his principal wife. The imperial astronomers shall select an auspicious date for the wedding. So it is decreed. As the words fell, the entire hall fell into silence. Fu Yunmo received the decree. Shu Lang stood tall and straight, his tone cold and detached. Once despised by all as the son of a merchant, he had now risen to become the emperor's favored minister. Appointed as the third-ranked chief of the Dali Temple, meanwhile, the once celebrated son-in-law of the general's mansion had, in the blink of an eye, been reduced to a commoner with nothing to his name, one kneeling, one standing. The irony was utterly biting. Fu Yunmo was greatly shocked and roared in disbelief. Impossible! How could the emperor strip me of my Marquis title? How dare you forge an imperial decree? Do you have a death wish? He tried to lunge forward, but was kicked to the ground by the imperial guard standing nearby. Eunuch Yang, standing by the emperor's side, sneered contemptuously. Fu Yunmo, you're now a commoner daring to lay hands on a court official. It seems it is you who seeks death. Fu Yunmo scrambled on the ground and clutched at Eunuch Yang's robe. Sir, I must see the emperor. There's been a misunderstanding. I never defied the imperial decree. I will marry Song Qingyu. Come on. Are you going to make Miss Song a concubine in your Marquis household? Eunuch Yang disdainfully pulled back his sleeve. Miss Song's status is such that she could easily be a person of high standing. Marrying you was already a stroke of luck brought by the virtues accumulated by your ancestors, yet you failed to cherish it. Instead, you want to humiliate the general's mansion by making her a concubine in public. If we don't deal with you, who should we deal with? You need to understand. It's not because of the Marquis household that you can marry Miss Song, but because she is willing to marry you that the Marquis household can bring honor to its ancestors. Someone as clueless and foolish as you, who doesn't even realize it, deserves to have the Marquis household ruined in your hands. He glanced at Song Shushu hiding behind Fu Yunmo, clicked his tongue, and said, utterly foolish. After saying this, he nodded to his father and turned to leave. As soon as the others left, Song Shushu cried out and threw herself into Fu Yunmo's arms. Husband, I don't want to be a lowly concubine. You promised me, you said you'd make me your official wife, that you'd love only me for the rest of your life. Old madam, who was so furious that she slapped Song Shushu hard across the face. It's all because of you. You shameless wretch. You seduced my son, drove him out of his senses, making him abandon the proper, well-bred Qingyu to marry a vixen like you. Now look what's happened. My son has lost his noble title, our family estate is gone, and all you care about is becoming the official wife. You're nothing but a troublemaker who brings ruin to the family. Get out. I'd rather die than let a woman like you step foot into the Fu family. Song Shushu wept bitterly, her face streaked with tears, and collapsed weakly into Fu Yunmo's embrace. After all, she was the woman he loved, so he spoke protectively. Mother, I won't give up on Shushu, no matter what. Our marriage is known to everyone in the capital. If you drive her out now, you'll be taking her life. If she doesn't leave now, she'll be the death of me. The Dowager Marchioness pulled the hairpin from her head and pressed it against her throat. It's this wretched vixen who has brought ruin upon our Marquisate. If you continue to shield her now, I'll spill my blood right here. Fu Yunmo turned pale with fright and rushed to stop her, but Song Shushu clung to him tightly. Husband, you can't abandon me, Yunmo. Today it's either her or me. Do you want to watch your mother die before your eyes? Fu Yunmo was nearly driven mad. Just as he was about to shake off Song Shushu, she cried out loudly, Husband, you can't abandon me. I'm already carrying your child. Fu Yunmo turned his head abruptly, his face filled with ecstatic joy. Is it true? Song Shushu, with red-rimmed eyes, nodded weakly. It's been over a month. The physician says it's a boy. The Dowager Marchioness looked like a duck whose neck had been wrung, her mouth agape, unable to utter a sound for a long while. Mother, you have a grandson now. This is my first child. Shushu is the benefactor of our family. For the child's sake, please accept her. The hairpin clattered to the ground. The dowager marchioness seemed to age decades in an instant, her expression pained and complex as she closed her eyes, allowing the servants to support her as she left. I watched coldly as the two embraced, and without hesitation, I signaled for two imperial guards to step forward. Only after being restrained did Song Shushu react, her face filled with terror. "Song Qingyu, what are you doing? You just instigated your servant to push and shove my mother. Forcing me to kowtow. What do you think I'm going to do? Considering you're with child, you'll kowtow 50 times and receive 30 slaps on the face." Song Shushu screamed. "No, you can't do this to me." Unfortunately, no matter how much she cried or made a scene, it couldn't change the outcome. Fu Yunmo's eyes were wide with fury. "Song Qingyu, if you're angry, take it out on me. Don't you dare hurt Shushu." His arrogant assumption that I was acting out of heartbreak and seeking revenge made me almost nauseous. "Do you think you can escape? Kowtow 100 times, slap your own face 100 times. Amid the cheerful sounds of slaps and kowtows, my father, mother, and I carried the dowry away. Shu Lang caught up with me and took out a piece of jade from his bosom, handing it to me. "This is a family heirloom left by my mother, meant for my future wife. Please don't disdain it. Keep it as a token for now. I will prepare the betrothal gifts as soon as possible and come to your home. Wait for me." I caressed the smooth, silky texture of the jade in my hand. I doubt there's a finer piece in the entire capital, and yet he still feared I might look down on it. "Weren't you already engaged to Song Shushu? Why didn't you give this jade to her?" The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. The tenderness brimming in Shu Lang's eyes made me feel utterly flustered. "It was always meant for you. It's you I've always wanted to marry, but I knew I wasn't worthy. When the general's manor promised me their second daughter, I knew she was involved with Fu Yunmo. I was surprised by his unexpected honesty. You knew, and yet you still came to marry me as promised." He laughed. "Because I guessed she would switch the marriage, and I also expected you would agree to marry me." This man, he had calculated everything without missing a detail. Truly, no merchant is without cunning. No wonder he passed the imperial exam as the top scholar and even managed to get the emperor to exceptionally promote him to the chief minister of the Dali Temple. He reached out his hand, paused by my ear, then tucked a stray strand of hair behind it. "All my schemes are meant to marry you. If you'd like me to become the prime minister, I could also." I panicked and covered his mouth, afraid his next words would be about striving to become emperor for my sake. With reddened ears, I whispered softly, "Go back now, I'll wait for you." Back at the general's residence, Aunt Hu, who had sneaked out of the ancestral hall, saw me return with him and immediately beamed with joy. "Miss, you were rejected by the Marquis household, weren't you? I told you. My daughter is the true golden phoenix. You insisted on humiliating yourself. How does it feel to be thrown out by the Marquis family? The position of the Marchioness rightfully belongs to my daughter. From now on, I will be the mother-in-law of the Marquis of Guangping. You should show me some respect. If you manage to please me now, I might put in a good word for you on my daughter's homecoming day, so that my son-in-law might take you in as a lowly concubine." I looked at her deliberately straightened back and let out a scornful laugh. "What, has Auntie Hu not heard the news yet? The Marquis of Guangping's household is no more. Your daughter did marry Fu Yunmo. Just as you wished, she'll be a lowly concubine for the rest of her life." Auntie Hu stared in disbelief, her eyes wide. "Impossible. My daughter is the rightful wife of the Marquis household, the mistress of the house. You're just jealous of her." I shrugged, believe it or not. With that, I turned and walked away, not bothering to look at her enraged, snarling face. My marriage to Shu Lang was set for 2 months later, and the princess consort specially invited me to attend the Cheonghua banquet. While strolling in the back garden with my maid, I unexpectedly ran into Fu Yunmo. I don't know what methods he used, but he actually managed to sneak into the princess's residence. He looked at me with a heartbroken expression. "Qingyu, how have you been these days?" I frowned and stepped back, putting distance between us. "Fu Yunmo, how I'm doing is none of your business. If you don't want me to have someone throw you out, you'd better leave now." But he didn't mind and grabbed my arm, claiming to be deeply affectionate. He lamented, I was wrong. I was deceived by Song Shushu's feigned gentleness and affection. She seduced me not out of genuine love, but to secure the position of the Marquis's wife. A woman as selfish, greedy, and vain as her is utterly incomparable to you. Ever since you left, I've been unable to taste my food or sleep at night. Only then did I realize that the one I love most in my heart has always been you. Without you, I feel like a soulless puppet on strings. I've thought it over. As long as you come back, I won't mind that you're engaged to Shu Lang. The position of my lawful wife will still be yours. Perhaps I've heard too many disgusting words, for I felt not the slightest ripple of emotion in my heart. even to the point of feeling so calm that I almost wanted to laugh. I marry you. What about Song Shushu? He waved his hand dismissively. She's just a plaything, not even worthy of shining your shoes. My household can afford to keep a lowly concubine, and it won't affect your position as the principal wife in the slightest. In the end, one desires a confidant, yet cannot bear to part with wealth and honor. Fu Yunmo's selfishness made me regret my past blindness once again. The maid beside me couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. If young Master Fu's thick skin were used to build a wall, no sword or blade could ever pierce through it. When you were a marquis, my lady still didn't fancy you. Now that you're a second-hand commoner, how dare you dream of my lady stooping to marry you? You must be out of your mind with delusion, being insulted to his face by a maid. Fu Yunmo's expression turned extremely ugly. Humiliated and enraged, he shouted behind me, Song Qingyu, if you don't marry me, tomorrow I'll go out and spread the word that I've already taken your virginity. Let's see if Shu Lang would still want a used goods like you. My face turned cold, and just as I was about to angrily retort, Fu Yunmo's collar was suddenly grabbed from behind. Before he could even scream, Shu Lang shoved him headfirst into the nearby lotus pond. Your mouth is so foul, young Master Fu. Let me help you wash it clean. The pond water bubbled and gurgled, then quickly fell silent. Only when Fu Yunmo's limbs went limp did Shu Lang release his grip and pull him out. The princess quickly arrived with her attendants, and Fu Yunmo, like a dead dog, was slumped on the ground clutching his neck. The princess wrinkled her nose in disgust and ordered the servants, throw him out, what a nuisance. He's dirted my entire pond of lotus flowers. A warm cloak was draped over my shoulders. I turned my head and exchanged a smile with Shu Lang. After the banquet ended, Shu Lang insisted on escorting me back to the general's residence, but halfway there, we nearly collided with someone. The coachman shouted through the carriage curtain, young master, someone is blocking the road, it's a pregnant woman. Shu Lang gently reassured me before speaking. If there's someone in the way, take a detour. First, take Miss Song back to the general's residence. The coachman hesitated before saying. The one blocking the road is the concubine of the Fu family. Second Miss Song, Song Shushu and Fu Yunmo are truly two of a kind. No sooner had Fu Yunmo finished his hypocritical act with me than Song Shushu came to pour out her lovesickness. Young Master Shu, she called out in a delicate voice from outside, and as Shu Lang emerged, she approached him with tearful, pleading eyes, twisting her handkerchief. She looked both humiliated and broken. I know you must not forgive me. I came today to tell you that I had no choice. On the wedding day, it was my sister who didn't want to marry Fu Yunmo. She drugged me and forced me to switch sedan chairs. By the time I woke up, my purity had already been violated by Fu Yunmo. I wanted to end my life, but I couldn't bear to watch you be deceived by Song Qingyue's vicious facade and marry a venomous woman. If that happened, I wouldn't be able to rest in peace even in death. Her face was streaked with tears. The one I've always admired in my heart is you. The man I wanted to marry is you. But I know I have no face to confront you, and I dare not even hope to marry you. I only wish you happiness for the rest of your life. Song Shushu's acting skills had always been impressive. Back at the general's residence, she had fooled many with this very talent. She thought herself unbeatable in the world, but Shu Lang was the exception. Her voice was nearly hoarse from shouting. The chilly water on the handkerchief was almost ineffective and couldn't squeeze out any more tears, yet Shu Lang remained completely unfazed. The clown-like look in his eyes made her stiffen with increasing unease. Shu Lang gave a hollow smile. Second Miss Song, you claim that Fu Yunmo defiled your innocence on your wedding night. But this belly of yours couldn't have come from that night alone. Song Shushu's face paled for a moment, and just as she was about to speak, a figure charged out with a furious roar. Fu Yunmo grabbed her by the hair, his eyes wide with rage. You wretch, haven't I treated you well? How dare you sneak out behind my back to seduce another man? Song Shushu cried out in protest, but Fu Yunmo wouldn't listen. He was left in a wretched state, thrown out of the princess's mansion, humiliated by everyone's ridicule, and could no longer hold his head up. All of this began because he married that woman, Song Shushu. Thinking of his past glory and comparing it to his current misery, he was so enraged that he completely lost control, throwing punch after punch at Song Shushu. It's all because of you. My Marquis manor is gone. Qingyu has abandoned me, and you dare to betray me too. I'll beat you to death, you fickle, shameless wench. He didn't know how long he had been hitting her, only snapping back to his senses when he saw the blood continuously flowing from beneath Song Shushu, who no longer had the strength to even cry out in pain. Shu Lang, afraid of tainting my eyes, left the coachman to find a doctor and escorted me back to the general's manor himself. Not long after, the news spread throughout the capital. Fu Yunmo had beaten his concubine to death in the street. The day after he was imprisoned, he was poisoned to death in his cell. The murderer was Aunt Hu. She bribed the jailer and put a large amount of arsenic into Fu Yunmo's food. By the time the officials found her, she had already hanged herself in the thatched cottage. A month later, Xu Lang and I were married under the emperor's auspices. After marriage, we had a son and a daughter, and Xu Lang treated me with unwavering devotion for 10 years. In this life, the rest of my days will be smooth sailing. The second story, during the winter hunt, when Yang took the initiative to remove his outer robe and draped it over the young lady of the Song family, whose clothes were torn and nearly exposed, to protect Song Wanna's purity, he turned around angrily and scolded the crowd. Everyone, turn around. For a moment, the gazes of the surrounding young masters and ladies towards me varied, when Yang noticed, frowning at me, a woman's jealousy is one of the 7 grounds for divorce. It's just an outer robe, and besides, Miss Song is an unmarried woman, she cannot wear another man's garment, don't make a fuss over nothing. I gripped the crossbow in my hand tightly, interrupting him loudly, since you care so much for Miss Song, I suppose you wouldn't bear to let her take the position of a concubine. Your betrothal letter will be returned to the Wen residence another day. Our marriage is hereby called off. A marriage alliance between noble families, a bond between 2 clans, it is not something I alone can uphold. Thus, I would not end up being framed by the 2 of them for adultery after marriage. Left with no way out, and perishing together with them in a blaze, hearing my words, when Yang was stunned for a moment, his expression turning serious. Shinji Hua, why must it come to breaking off the engagement? Although I share mutual feelings with Wanna, I am still bound by the engagement to you. A true man stands firm and upright. I will not abandon you. Once I have sought my mother's approval, I will take Wanna as a secondary wife after you enter the household. This way, Wanna will not be wronged as a concubine, and our engagement will still hold. It is a solution that satisfies both sides. Chun Dao, standing behind me, was so furious that she crushed the pastries in her hand. My lady is your betrothed, how could you publicly humiliate her for the sake of another woman? At this moment, Song Wanna's face had stiffened. Even she knew that Wen's mother would never allow her to enter the household as an equal wife alongside me. Yet when Yang could say such words without batting an eye, it was only because of our engagement that I had shown him some kindness in daily life. Does Wen Yang think all the other men in the world are dead? This greedy fool who wants to have it all, Song Wanna whispered with a slight lift of her brow. It's all my fault for causing a misunderstanding between you, sister, and brother Wen. But since there are only men here, it wouldn't be proper for me to wear another man's robe, it would harm a woman's reputation. Since we're both women, and I've always addressed brother Wen as an older brother, I thought you wouldn't think too much of it. Sister, who would have thought? Chun Dao's face flushed red with anger. You, I sneered. What a fine pair of siblings they were. In her previous life, Song Wanna entered the Wen family as a concubine, but Wen's mother took an extreme dislike to her. She often summoned Song Wanna under the pretext of teaching her the rules, punishing her for entire days at a time. She even detained Song Wanna at night, preventing the couple from consummating their marriage. At that time, when Yang suspected that I had deliberately stirred up conflict between his mother and Song Wanna, and treated me with unusual coldness, later, I was framed by the 2 of them. Mrs. Wen originally intended to push Song Wanna out to be eliminated, but Mr. Wen took the initiative to resolve the matter. I still remember how furious Mrs. Wen was at the time. It was like an angry wife confronting her unfaithful husband. Siblings, I'll have to give them a good helping hand. I let out a heavy, turbid breath. In my previous life, I had let my guard down and fell right into their trap. Fortunately, the night before they were to drown me in a pig cage, I used the few shops I had secretly owned to bribe the guards and set the Wen Manor ablaze. But how could that possibly be enough to vent my anger after all the harm they had caused me? I drew my crossbow to its fullest tension. Aim, release the arrow. The next moment, the arrow pierced through Song Wanna's hair bun and embedded itself in Wen Yang's hair crown. A single arrow pierced through 2 people, emitting a faint, resonant hum. Song Wanna, her heart still pounding, touched her disheveled hair bun, too shocked to speak. When Yang looked up in terror, what do you want to do? I smoothed my sleeve. I've made myself perfectly clear. I never knew you. Wen Yang was such a fool who can't even understand plain words. I wonder if you can even follow Master Morjai's lectures at the academy. I've heard that Lord Wen intends to send you to compete for the position of an official to assist the Imperial Prince. If word gets out that you can't even understand what's being said, do you think you'll still get your wish to enter the palace? If you dare slander me again recklessly, next time it won't be your hat that gets shot. Just as I returned to the tent, a maid came forward to report, Miss Lady Wen just sent someone to say that she wishes to see you once you return. This must be to mediate on behalf of Wen Yang. Last year, the Shun and Wen families arranged a marriage alliance. At that time, Wen Yang still had a good reputation in the capital and, having been tutored by Master Morjai, his future seemed quite promising. The Wen family is an old aristocratic clan, though it has gradually declined in recent years, but after all, it retains the foundation of a noble family. Once Wen Yang enters the court as an official, the Wen family's rise to prominence is just around the corner. However, this is contingent on gaining the support of my father, an up-and-coming influential figure. By forming a marriage alliance, the Shun family would connect with the aristocracy, and the Wen family would receive the Shun family's assistance to restore its former glory. Only in this way can the glory of both families be sustained. But a few months ago, when Yang happened to meet Song Wana and became so infatuated, as if bewitched, that he was determined to marry her. In the previous life, Wen's mother threatened the Song family to keep Song Wana confined at home, then brought Wen Yang to the Song residence to apologize. And when Yang personally admitted that the two of them had already severed ties, it was nothing more than a marriage alliance between two families. Marrying one person was as good as marrying another. But who would have thought that after marriage, Wen Yang would blame it all on me, accusing me of being jealous and unscrupulous in my efforts to marry him. He was the one who benefited from the union of two families, yet he was also the one who settled the score afterward. If he was determined not to agree, no one could force him to apologize, nor could anyone marry on his behalf. Naturally, this marriage was not solely dependent on his family, but he wanted both my father's support and his beloved sister. What a thick-skinned person indeed. Mother Wen is here again to clean up after her son who hasn't been weaned yet. Chun Dao was somewhat displeased. The Wen family is really, Miss, are you really going to go? I looked at the mandarin ducks with their necks entwined on the handkerchief, which had fallen from Wen Yang today. I had never given him such an object. Of course I'm going. I want to give her a surprise. Coincidentally, there's a banquet tonight, so there's no need to make a special trip just to see her. If she wants to cover up for her son, then I'll make sure to strip Wen Yang down to his last shred of dignity. Many noble families joined the hunt today, most just for the fun of it. Give the princess a face, and take this opportunity to mingle with the other officials' wives. Zihua is here, please sit quickly. As soon as I arrived, the ladies who were close to my mother quickly greeted me. The matter today has caused quite a stir, and I had sent Chun Dao out to handle things this afternoon. We must ensure that no one is left out. Even the dog at the princess's feet can catch a few words. It's been a few days, and our Zihua has grown even more beautiful, indeed. Just look at her speech and demeanor. She's truly a model among noble ladies. Only those who lack discernment would mistreat Zihua. The ladies were speaking up for me, putting all their effort into subtly criticizing Lady Wen. Mother Wen's smile froze on her face as she reached out to pull me. Of course, I've been looking forward to Zihua joining our family every single day. Any family lucky enough to have such a wonderful daughter-in-law would surely wake up smiling from their dreams at night. Yang is indeed a bit childish at heart. I will stand up for you and give him a good scolding. I simply bowed with a polite smile, then deftly dabbed the corner of my eye with a handkerchief and hid myself in my mother's embrace. When Yang has a childlike temperament, and I'm even younger than him, do you expect someone as young as me to be as tolerant as you, an elder? Towards him, I have already shown all due courtesy, and no one could find the slightest fault with me. Has Wen Yang, in his daily life, learned nothing about propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame? Has it all gone to the dogs? Mother Wen awkwardly withdrew her hand with an embarrassed smile. Just about to change the subject, a straightforward voice chimed in. I heard that Miss Shen said today she wants to break off the engagement with your son. Yet Madam Wen still expects Miss Shen to marry into your family. In the centuries since the founding of Da Xing, not even princes, marquises, or even the current emperor have ever taken a second wife. I wonder what kind of person your son is, thinking he can have all the good things. Guard Zheng came from a military background, a female guard who had followed the princess in winning many battles for Da Xing in my previous life. It was also she who openly proposed a thorough investigation into my alleged adultery case. But what I got was a roomful of laughter. At that time, my father was in a difficult position at court. The one who spoke up for me must have suffered repercussions because of it. Her words were merciless, and in her speech, she even implicated the one in the palace. Although what she said wasn't wrong, if it were to spread, it might be exploited by those with ill intentions. I can no longer let her be subjected to those rumors because of me. I immediately rose and bowed to the princess at the head of the hall. Guard Zheng speaks truly. As the saying goes, when husband and wife are harmonious, the household is at peace. When the household is at peace, the mind is settled. When the mind is settled, governance becomes clear. His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress are in perfect harmony, serving as the ideal model of a marital relationship in my heart. In contrast, among ordinary couples, only when husband and wife respect each other and maintain harmony both inside and outside can the household be stable. I shall take the Emperor and Empress as my example, cultivate myself with integrity, and fulfill my duties as a daughter to the utmost. The princess stroked her beloved dog. Miss Shun remains unshaken by reckless words, showing a firm heart and calmness in crisis. Madame Shun has raised her daughter well. With these words, Lady Wen suddenly collapsed to the ground. I looked at the noblewoman lying prostrate before me. Just a few words of reprimand from the princess, and she couldn't take it. If she knew the outcome of Wen Yang being reprimanded by Her Highness the Princess today, she would surely faint. Madame Wen, you must mind your manners. Madame Wen, pale-faced, forced herself to rise and apologize to the princess. This humble subject is unwell and shall not disturb the enjoyment of the gathering. Even so, Mother Wen still did not agree to break off the engagement. After all, Wen Yang was at a critical moment in his official career, and she would rather suffer humiliation herself than give in. Mother held my hand, frowning subtly. If they had the sense to apologize and break off the engagement early, everything would be fine, but if they insisted on shamelessly clinging to me, that would be truly disgusting. It's fine, let your father deal with the Wen family. When they can't hold on any longer, they'll naturally come to apologize. I obediently nodded. I don't want to tell Mother about what happened in the past for now, but my engagement with Wen Yang, I can't let them break it off so easily. The purpose of this banquet hosted by the princess is to gather with the noble ladies. His Highness was concerned that the younger ones might feel restrained here, so he allowed them to amuse themselves in the outer chamber. I gently tapped the rim of my cup, quietly waiting for news from outside. Soon, Chun Dao entered and gave me a meaningful look. Just as Mrs. Wen reached the doorway, a clamor erupted from outside. Matters between men and women are always kept hidden and left unspoken, but if one were to shout on the street, "Who will join me to catch an adulterer?" even the 8-year-old grannies and the toddlers just learning to speak would likely join in the excitement. Wen Yang and Song Wana once plotted against me and spread rumors everywhere. As a result, the entire capital came to know that Lord Shen's daughter was a woman who did not abide by the virtues of womanhood. Yet, unless one could completely withdraw from the world, who could escape the worldly condemnation where many mouths can melt metal and accumulated slander can destroy one's bones? Thus, by now, a crowd had gathered in front of the tent. It really seems like there's a sound. No way. The young ladies from noble families all blushed with embarrassment. Yet each wore a curious expression. Guess who's inside? There were also some reckless playboys who started making bets with others, wagering a month's worth of drinking money. What's so difficult about this? Just see who among us is missing. The first to discover the affair, young Master Liu, was someone who couldn't keep a secret to himself. Earlier, Chun Dao had deliberately spilled wine on him. She then led him past the curtain where Wen Yang and Song Wana were. After hearing the commotion inside, he quietly slipped away. At that moment, he was carefully observing among the crowd. It's Wen Yang. Well, this kid can't even stay quiet during a hunt, the young masters and ladies whispered among themselves. The silent nanny beside the princess gave a heavy cough, startling everyone. I never imagined someone would dare to do such an absurd thing on this day. Nanny Li was about to step forward as ordered. Lady Wen threw herself at the feet of the princess. Your Highness, please don't. I will take that unruly Wen Yang back and discipline him. I beg you. The princess frowned. The young lady of the Shen family is also here right now. Have you considered her feelings? Besides, the person in the room might not necessarily be young Master Wen. It could be that unruly servant, taking advantage of his master's absence to engage in indecent acts under the covers. I cannot stand to see such filth in my presence. If we don't get to the bottom of this today, it would be a shame to tarnish the reputations of the other young masters and ladies by mistake. Madame Wen fell silent, still wanting to say something, but was abruptly pulled aside by the guards. Chun Dao and Mother Li immediately joined forces to break the door open. This was precisely the moment when the drug's effects were taking hold. Fine horses often have strong temperaments. To breed superior colts, Sima Fang specially developed this drug, which is extremely potent. If used on a person, the one who has taken the drug will not regain consciousness until the effects are relieved. Wen Yang at this moment was like a rabid dog gone mad, wildly tearing at his own and the other person's clothes. Suddenly interrupted, he grew impatient and frenzied, rushing out disheveled to attack someone. Song Wana called out from behind in a coquettish voice, Wen Lang. Although they hadn't gone all the way, under the watchful eyes of everyone, these two were beyond defense. This damn world values reputation more than life itself, and the shackles placed upon women are layered one after another. In my previous life, when Yang falsely accused me of adultery, a woman's chastity is more important than her life. Since you have been defiled, you should atone by taking your own life. Song Wana chimed in from the side. Yes, sister, if it were me today, I would dash my head against the wall without hesitation, never daring to tarnish the Wen family's reputation. I wonder if the two of them, when they used such methods to frame me, ever imagined they would one day find themselves in the same predicament. Wen's mother wailed, "It's over, everything is over." With that, she rolled her eyes and fainted on the spot. I picked up the nearby washbasin and drenched both of them like drowned rats. A brief moment of clarity cut through the drug's effects, allowing me to take in the scene before me. Song Wana screamed in a panicked voice, "Don't look, everyone turn around." Then, she buried herself in a pile of clothes, trembling uncontrollably. When Yang turned pale, with no way to avoid it, and fell to his knees with a thud, begging the Grand Princess for forgiveness, I scoffed. Those who preach benevolence and morality the most are often the ones with the least morality themselves. When it came to herself, she showed even more leniency and compassion, never mentioning punishment, let alone taking her own life to atone. The scene was extremely chaotic, forcing the princess to order the two inside the tent to be knocked unconscious. A small sedan chair was used to escort the three away. After this incident, Wen's father was reprimanded by the emperor and had not attended court for 3 days. That very day, Lady Wen fell ill upon returning home. After the household physician was at a loss, many doctors were called from outside, all saying she suffered from a sudden rage attacking the heart, a matter of the mind. When Yang's drug effects from that day clearly hadn't worn off, unable to find relief for a long time, by the time he returned to the Wen residence, it was likely that the illness had already taken root. As for Song Wana, her father had passed away early, and it was said that her uncle had administered the family discipline. She even declared that if the Wen family did not come to propose marriage, she would strangle herself with a white silk ribbon. Unwilling to bring shame upon the other daughters of the clan, my parents stayed by my side. The evidence of the drugging that day has been handled by Nanny Zhao assisting Chun Dao. Next time you encounter such a situation, you must speak up to your parents. We can offer some help. No one knows a daughter better than her mother. Although I had never spoken of it to my mother, she had long since seen through my thoughts. I leaned into my mother's embrace, feeling the warmth of her love. After I explained the matter to them in detail, father slammed the table and stood up. That old scoundrel Wen, I've always treated him well, and he usually acted the part, but deep down he's rotten to the core. While speaking, a maid's voice was heard announcing from outside the door that the Wen family had come to apologize. Wen Yang was seen wrapped tightly in a long robe, covering himself completely. Wen's mother also followed by his side, showing no sign of the illness that had kept her bedridden. It seemed that the doctors these past few days had actually been there to examine young Master Wen. Seeing me staring at his lower body, Wen Yang somewhat awkwardly covered himself. He cleared his throat. "Jihua, I was wrong in this matter. I will definitely handle things with Wana and cut off contact with her. Today's situation is not beyond saving. As long as the two of us get married smoothly, the rumors in the capital will naturally vanish. Don't worry, after we marry, I will surely treat you well and not betray your feelings for me." Mother Wen also nodded in agreement from the side. Father lowered his head, searching for something. "I must beat this beast to death." I stopped father. "Do you know that if you marry me, Song Wana will be beaten to death by her uncle?" When Yang frowned, a look of restrained anger in his eyes. "That wretch seduced me. Even if she were executed, it would only be for the good of the people. Her death is no great loss. I understand clearly that this is another case of the blame being placed on me. The selection of the Crown Prince's officials is coming up soon. If I still have a stain on my record, I definitely won't be chosen. Jihua, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to endure this once more. Our wedding might have to be rushed a bit." I walked up to him and smiled at him. When Yang showed an expression that said, "As expected." The next moment, I grabbed the nearby celadon vase and smashed it toward Wen Yang's head. Dark brown soil mixed with shards of porcelain and streaks of blood trickled down, clinging to his gaping mouth, making it even more repulsive. I took a step back in disgust. If your reputation is ruined, just quietly end your life to atone. It's so annoying for something tainted to still come out and show itself. Wen Yang's face flushed bright red. "I'm not a woman." Before he could finish speaking, several servants stepped forward and threw him out, along with his mother who was screaming beside him. I wiped my hands with a handkerchief. "Tell Song Wana what happened today. Make sure every word Wen Yang said is conveyed without missing a single one." Both were caught in adultery in public, when Yang still had a chance to turn things around. But Song Wanna could only wait for the Wen family to come and propose marriage, otherwise it would be a dead end for her. The matter was done by both of them together. How can it be so biased? Song Wanna, you must prove yourself. When Yang does indeed have some talent, otherwise, he wouldn't have risen so rapidly in just 3 years with the help of my father. Now the path to becoming an official in the Crown Prince's household has been cut off, but as long as Lord Wen remains in power, Wen Yang can still take the imperial examinations. A few years later, when people gradually forget about the scandal he was involved in, he can thrive in the capital once again. I heard that Lord Wen did not submit Wen Yang's name, likely to avoid further humiliation. The Wen family exhausted most of their savings to find a retired scholar official for him, clearly sparing no effort for their son's future. In contrast, Song Wanna never did receive a marriage proposal from the Wen family. But Uncle Song couldn't bring himself to actually strangle her with a white silk cord, so he sent Song Wanna to a dilapidated temple outside the city to live out her remaining days. Song Wanna's mother secretly went to see her, but no one knows what the two of them talked about inside. The person sent to monitor Song Wanna brought this news back while I was reviewing the lessons taught by the tutor. I suppose Song Wanna must have learned about her true origins by now. Song Wanna might take some action next. Do your best to assist her discreetly from the shadows. The next few months, when Yang went out more and more frequently, to make it easier to go out, he even went so far as to anger the tutor in the household. His father had no choice but to let him return to the academy to study. The servant I sent followed him a few times and indeed saw him always detour halfway to the temple where Song Wanna stayed. That place was rarely visited, making it an ideal spot for them to confide in each other. When Yang played the qin, while Song Wanna sang, their deep affection resembling that of a young married couple, but the truth behind it was like arsenic wrapped in honey. During Wen Yang's days of leisure, a major event occurred at court. The princess persuaded the emperor to establish official positions for women in the court. With the imperial examinations approaching, women of appropriate age could now participate alongside men. In previous dynasties, there had also been female officials in the palace, but they were only in charge of managing the affairs of the inner court, under the jurisdiction of the empress, and were not allowed to interfere in the matters of the outer court. Thanks to the capable management of the palace women officials in the inner court, the system of female officials has been successfully continued into this dynasty, and their abilities are now widely recognized. In my previous life, after years of effort, the eldest princess finally persuaded the emperor to allow women to take the imperial examinations and serve as officials, thus broadening the talent pool for the court. However, at that time, I was troubled by family matters concerning heirs, and with the strong opposition from my parents-in-law, I ultimately did not go to participate. I looked at the newly written policy essay in my hand. Wen Yang is arrogant because of his talent, so I will completely crush him in the area he is most proud of. Soon, the imperial examination was approaching. Wen Yang somehow managed to bring Song Wanna back to the Wen family. Although Wen's father and mother were unwilling, they still allowed her to enter the household. I nodded. The imperial examination is coming soon, and they probably don't want to upset their son and distract him in the exam hall. Did Song Wanna get to hear that? Chun Dao nodded proudly. I made sure she heard it loud and clear. On that day, all of it will be directed at Wen Yang. On the day of the imperial examination, I ran into Wen Yang outside the hall. When he saw me, his expression was filled with intense emotion. My mother told me everything. Don't think I don't know it was you who harmed me. Truly, the female heart is the most venomous. He looked me up and down. Fortunately, our families have already called off the engagement. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare marry a woman like you who shows herself in public. Look at how gentle Wanna is as a woman. You shouldn't aspire to things you don't deserve. Just look at how few women are here today. Women like you truly defy moral principles and social order. I burst out laughing. What are moral principles and social order? I dare not compare myself to him. I looked at the pitifully few women before me. Women have been bound by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues since childhood. Those from impoverished families would chop wood, cook, wash, mend, and earn money to support the household early on, joining the entire family in pooling their resources to fund the education of a single son. Those from wealthy families were also taught the rules and disciplines for women. Everything they read and learned was about how to be a good mistress of the household, how to serve their husbands well. When would they ever get to touch the textbooks that boys study? Are you questioning the emperor's decision? I said loudly, ensuring that everyone around could hear. When Yang panicked, don't you dare slander me. I meant no such thing. The line for women moved quickly, and it was soon my turn to enter. while Wen Yang was still flusteredly explaining outside the hall. I had already reached the inspection point. "Guard Zheng, it's you." Zheng Qingzi was clad in armor, looking entirely different from the way he had appeared in the princess's tent that day, her entire being exuded authority, and I could almost see through her figure the scenes of her fighting bloody battles on the battlefield. Suddenly, I recalled the words Wen Yang had spoken outside the hall. "Women are not just one mold, we ought to be diverse and vibrant." Zheng Qingzi carefully inspected me from head to toe, then nodded to signal that I could pass. The moment I sat in the examination cell, I realized with astonishment that what I had longed for in vain in my past life had now come true. I looked up. Ahead lay a smooth and open road. The next day, a commotion broke out in the neighboring cell, but it was quickly suppressed, and the next room fell silent once more. During scientific expeditions, all sorts of unexpected events can occur. And the others were already used to it. After all, in the face of immense benefits, there will always be those who take desperate risks. I refocused my attention on the answer sheet in front of me. In today's world, floods and droughts occur frequently. The frontiers are not yet pacified. The state treasury is gradually depleting, and the people's strength is already exhausted. Reflecting on our ancestors' system of valuing agriculture and caring for soldiers, how can we uphold it now? What methods can be employed to eliminate official corruption and revitalize the agricultural framework? Father, in his previous role as a local official, truly rose from humble beginnings. At that time, I was just a little child following behind him, accompanying him to the farmlands and raising fish and shrimp. The common people rely on the heavens for their food. When the weather is favorable, the harvests are abundant. 3 years ago, Huiju suffered a great drought. I followed my father to see the rice paddies the villagers had planted. The sparse, pitiful seedlings in the fields looked as if a gust of wind could blow them all away. The cracks in the ground were like the mouths of monsters from storybooks, big enough to swallow a person whole. At that time, the villagers were preparing for the rain-praying ceremony, setting up the altar and offering sacrifices. All knelt devoutly and kowtowed, praying for heaven's mercy. A septuagenarian at home exposed himself to the scorching sun, praying to self-immolate, moving the heavens. I let out a heavy sigh and wrote down the thoughts accumulated over the years. Now, with floods and droughts occurring repeatedly, the villages are in decline, and the trouble lies in the neglect of agricultural governance. First, each village should establish granaries, storing grain in abundant years and lending it in lean years, to prepare for unforeseen needs. Second, promote water conservancy projects. If rivers and canals are silted up, there will be no defense against droughts and floods. Third, stepping out of the grand hall, my parents and Chundao were waiting at the very front of the crowd. As soon as she saw me, she waved excitedly. "Miss, over here." On the way back, they were all very curious, asking incessantly about the exam questions and how I had answered them. I patiently answered each one. But what I was most concerned about was whether Song Wana had succeeded. Yesterday, officials pulled a few people out from inside. Among them was that member of the Wen family. He was crying and shouting that he hadn't cheated, but the exam proctor had already found the hidden notes on him. Song Wana hid it so well, she actually concealed the note in Wen Yang's shoe sole and meticulously stitched it up with a needle. I ate the pastries from Chuanxiang Tower. Did Song Wana go and report it? Father nodded. Old scoundrel Wen found out about Song Wana's background and wanted to eliminate her and her mother, but we managed to save Song Wana. Only her mother remains in the Wen family's hands. Now that Song Wana had completely lost all restraint, she tore off all pretense of cordiality with them. In her previous life, Wen's father had accidentally discovered her identity on the very day Song Wana entered their household, but feeling that he owed this child, he thought of compensating her with all his might. It was also his unusual treatment of Song Wana that made Wen's mother sense something amiss. After the two of them framed me, his first thought was to cover up for them, wanting to sink me in the pond while no one was aware. Now, for the sake of Wen Yang and his precarious official position, he could actually bring himself to harm Song Wana. It shows how much of his fatherly affection is genuine, utterly hypocritical. I'm going to see Song Wana. In the old residence of the Shen family, Song Wana lay on the bed, covered in wounds. Seeing me arrive, she struggled to sit up. "I never thought it would be you who ended up saving me. Back then I deliberately provoked you, even had ill intentions towards you, yet you still helped me. What exactly do you want?" I turned around and sat down, my face full of kindness. "I heard they're looking for you everywhere. You're welcome to stay here with me. However, I heard the Wen family has a new servant, and Mrs. Wen is tormenting them every day." Song Wana clenched her fists in resentment. "You venomous woman." Seeing her emotional state, I continued, "You've never seen your father since you were a child. It was your mother who protected and supported the family, allowing you to grow up despite all the hardships, but the toil and effort involved I need not elaborate, for you understand it even better than I do. Song Wana was already in tears. I also know about your background. You said your mother has fallen into the hands of Madam Wen. What do you think will happen to her? Not to mention you just ruined her son's future and nearly caused Minister Wen to be dismissed from his post. I'm afraid they must hate you to the bone by now. But since you're here with me, they'll have no choice but to vent all their anger on your mother. I let out a long, slow sigh. I wonder how much longer she can hold on. Song Wana prostrated herself on the ground, clinging to my feet. Please, save my mother. You must have a way, don't you? Her tears splashed onto my shoes, the very ones my mother had painstakingly embroidered for me. I frowned and kicked her away. Song Wana, it's better to rely on yourself than to beg others. Think carefully about what bargaining chips you still have in your hands, and don't hold back, otherwise, I believe you'll soon be collecting your mother's corpse. The day before the results were announced, something novel happened in the capital. I sat on the second floor of Wangchun Tower, listening to the endless chatter of the people downstairs. Lord Wen is having an affair with the eldest daughter of the Song family. How could that be? I heard that the daughter of the eldest branch is the posthumous child of Lord Shen. Lady Shen gave birth prematurely to a baby girl in July that year, but the child showed no signs of congenital weakness. According to the midwife, the baby's size was no different from that of a full-term infant. Indeed, I've seen that Miss Song. Her eyes and brows bear a striking resemblance to Lord Wen. But isn't she the Miss Song who was involved in a secret affair with young Master Wen? Exactly. Oh my, what a huge scandal. I sat there listening with great interest. But downstairs, Mrs. Wen's face was almost contorted with rage. The matron beside her scolded, "Silence. What nonsense are you all spouting? If you dare to spread such nonsense again, believe me, I'll have you all thrown into the Yamen." The gossiping group immediately quieted down, but someone retorted defiantly, "Putting on a show, Song Wana has already gone to appeal to the emperor. Just wait to be thrown into prison. Only these high-ranking families have such drama. How can we common folks compare, threatening people at the drop of a hat? I'm absolutely terrified." In her panic, Mrs. Wen turned pale and fainted on the spot. Song Wana accused Mr. Wen of rape and the unlawful detention of an official's wife, claiming that he had neglected his paternal duties for years after her birth. Lady Wen murdered Lady Song in a manner so cruel it was unbearable to hear. When Yang behaved improperly towards his own sister, ruining her reputation, and later attempted to kill her to silence her, involving court officials, the emperor was enraged, rebuked Lord Wen for being unworthy of his position, and decided to personally investigate the case. Afterwards, Lord Wen was dismissed from his post, and the Wen family was expelled from the capital, never to return. When the results were announced, the Wen family's affairs were completely put to rest. Chun Dao pointed at the names of the top 3 on the list, covering her mouth as she cried out in excitement, "Miss, it's you, it says Shen Jihua." I took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped the tears from her face. "Her Highness the Princess has summoned you. Wouldn't it be embarrassing to show up like this, all in tears?" When the carriage arrived at the princess's residence, the princess was seen sitting in the courtyard, sipping tea. "I saw your courage that day, how you managed to get that kind of medicine in such a short time and then cover up all traces afterward. I knew you wouldn't disappoint." My heart skipped a beat. But today's visit should not be to hold me accountable, otherwise she could have exposed me that day. I knelt respectfully. "Your subject is apprehensive. Even though I have tried my best to be flawless, I still cannot escape your Highness's discerning eyes." A long time passed. So long that I began to doubt myself, and cold sweat gradually beaded on my forehead. The Grand Princess walked over slowly. It is not easy for a woman to make her way in the world, and it is even more difficult for a woman to enter the court. Therefore, what I have always wanted is not someone indecisive, but someone who can snatch a piece of meat from the jaws of those wolves and tigers. I looked up and met the princess's gaze, and she took the opportunity to help me to my feet. "Do you know why His Majesty suddenly agreed to allow women to serve as officials? This is something I've always been puzzled about." She picked up her teacup and chuckled lightly. "My imperial brother, though he knows how to make good use of talent, is far too wary. Trading the entire military force of Yangju City for your entry into the court, did I lose or gain in this deal?" I remained silent for a long time. I had heard of the reputation of the Yangju troops. "Your Highness is actually willing to give it up." As if sensing my thoughts, she chuckled softly. "Are you wondering why I don't just seize power directly?" I quickly looked outside, afraid that someone might have overheard her words. She then laughed heartily. "The Emperor is talented in governing the country, while I only wish to lead troops into battle." all for the peace of the people and the security of the nation. Renewed conflict between us would benefit no one. I bowed respectfully to His Highness. Your Highness is truly righteous. As I walked out of the princess's residence, her words still echoed in my ears. I have merely paved the way for women, the rest of the path you must tread yourselves. The Wen family and Song Wana were secretly detained by the Grand Princess. By the time I arrived, Lady Wen was already gravely ill and nearing the end of her life. When Yang had gone mad, and upon seeing me, he began to kowtow frantically. I was wrong, Jihua. Please forgive me, I promised to treat you well. I walked over to the dazed Song Wana. I've already buried your mother. You've come to kill me. I nodded. Exactly. She rolled her eyes. Do you know how miserable my childhood was? If I couldn't cling to Wen Yang as my lifeline, I would have been dragged to death by my clan. That's why I came up with that plan. The medicine Wen Yang bought, I had someone put it in your food, but I never expected. Fate truly plays cruel tricks. I slapped her sharply across the face. You're pitiful, but I'm even more pitiful. Pity is no excuse for your cruelty. You truly deserve to die. Song Wana suddenly burst into tears, then drew the hidden hairpin and thrust it fiercely into her throat. She collapsed in a pool of blood, gasping hoarsely a few times. Then, she fell completely silent. Wen Yang was trembling uncontrollably as he hid in the corner. Upon closer look, there was a puddle of yellow liquid beneath him. Don't kill me. We have no grudge against each other. I clapped my hands, and the people waiting outside filed in one after another. Someone, come and cut off that thing between his legs with a swift stroke. Wen Yang, the moment I laid eyes on you just now, I knew you had returned too, didn't you? Since that's the case, I'll send you to the Spring Breeze Pavilion to be a courtesan, so you can fully experience this pain. Wen Yang's father and mother, having just witnessed their son's miserable state, had already breathed their last breath. Stepping out of the courtyard, I let out a heavy sigh of pent-up frustration. From now on, I will live for myself, and for all the countless women who suffer. She came to me excitedly to share this joyful news. She was once just a small guard following the princess, but now she has become the great general of Dasheng, officially stepping into the court. You have fought so many victorious battles alongside Her Highness the Princess. You truly deserve this. We walked together on the street and passed by a school. Seeing the young girls studying inside, a smile spread across her face. Half of the candidates who passed the imperial examination this year are women. Truly impressive. I nodded. Long hair does not bind soaring ambitions. Women have always been remarkable. The one who once mocked women as unworthy of taking the imperial exams has long turned to dust. Her Highness the Princess has received fine tea. Let's hurry over. Qing Si took my hand and walked forward quickly. I looked back at those children. Your Highness, we've made a huge profit on this deal.